G'day everyone. This video is about mounting the HNT Gordon pattern maker's vise. It's precision made out of high grade aluminium and it is non-racking like our bench vise. Comes with a full instructions for mounting it, and along with this video you should find it quite easy to mount this vise. With mounting your vise, you'll see on your instructions, you can only put it in certain positions. If there's a leg involved, it's a minimum of 120 millimeters from that leg to this side of the mounting plate. Otherwise you haven't got enough room to put your hand in there to operate the rotation lever. From the top of your bench to your rail below, you need 340 millimeters minimum. So that allows for this shaft to swing in and out of position. The same goes if you're mounting this towards another leg. It's the same thing. You have an operating handle on this side for the tilt. You also need that 120 millimeters of clearance. Now we'll have a look at the first mounting plate for the top plate, which is basically your hinge for your tilt mechanism. So it's 107 long by 80 deep. So you can, so 80 deep back that way and 20 mils in depth that way. You can route that out, chisel it out, but you need a real crisp edge so that it sits in there neatly. You don't want that moving around. You want that held securely so that the 4 screws can hold it in place. If that's not done properly and that's moving, your vise will not work properly. So do a nice neat job on that. Then on the underside, you've also got to do a cutout depending on the thickness of your bench. This distance here must be 25 mils, right? So 20 here plus 25. If your bench is 45 millimeters thick, you don't need a cutout on the underside. This bench is 64 millimeters thick, so we had to do roughly a 20 millimeter cutout. Now, we'll get the camera under there and show you the cutout. I cut this one first and then marked out this one in accordance with the drawing. Essentially, this bottom cutout will be, this one's out a little bit. It should be in line with this side. And then do your cutout, and the length of it will be from here, this point, back to this point. So we'll get the camera under there now and have a look. I actually took the bench top off and routed that cutout with the bench top upside down. It's really the only way you can do it. So as you can see, it's just a straight cutout, and I've relieved it a little bit there. If we had brought this one across, you probably wouldn't have needed that little chamfer there. So you can vary it slightly, but in the instructions it'll show you the exact measurements you need to use. We're ready to mount the vise, so what I'm going to do is release my tilt handle and take it off out of the way. Now you'll notice we've already marked with texter so that you can get the alignment right. So as you take it off, just leave it like that, put it out of the way so that it'll fit straight back on and will be adjusted to the right position. You can, later on as you use the vise, you can adjust it by undoing that nut against this lever and reposition that handle so that it ends up pulling into the right position. The next thing is we can mount this now. So you've done a neat job on that. Get your 4 screws. Obviously, I've already drilled these holes, but if you haven't, drill the correct size hole to suit your screws. And lock that down. So I'm sort of supporting the vise until I can get a couple of screws in. Right, now I can release, comfortably put these other screws in. So yeah, use a drill bit, obviously the right size. So you don't want your screws super tight, but you don't want them loose either. This is very important for the overall efficiency of the vise. You can't have this top hinge plate moving. Notice the holes, use screws so that the countersunk hole puts the screws below the surface of the plate, just in case you run a plane or something too close to it. Now it's time to fit the tilt bracket. As you can see, there's texture marks, so line them up. They would have been put on by us, and then that will allow you to slide that on, and the handle will be in the correct locking position. So come down, slide that right, bring it up, and then you can lock it. Right, it needs to be about, you can unlock it and manipulate it into position, but it should be about 10 millimetres, the front of the bracket should be about 10 millimetres back from the edge of the bench. Right, now the holes in the bracket are 5 millimetres, so I've put a 5 millimetre drill in here so that I can get the correct positioning. It's quite critical that you align this tilt bracket correctly. So using a clamp, I'm going to bring that in, and that'll allow me to mark out the back holes first. So with my 5mm drill, bring it in, which will fit perfectly into the hole, and mark the position. Right, and then do the other side. That gives me 2 marked positions. Take my clamp off and put the drill that's suitable for the screws that you're using. So this 5mm drill is only used for the initial mark out. So don't drill too deep, just put a mark in the timber so that it's perfectly centered for this drill, and then this one will follow the start of that other hole. Right. Drill them to depth, then grab one of your screws, unlock your handle so that it will naturally go into the right position. Right, now that I've got the 2 holes done at the back, they're screwed in, unlock your vise and make sure it swings through its full movement without catching. If it's catching, just back your screws off a little bit and do that again. When you get it smooth, then nip your screws up. Now I can mark out, put my 5mm drill in again. I can now mark out my front 2 holes, so drill them, undo the screws at the back, take the bracket off, do your full depth hole with this drill, and then you'll be good to put all 4 screws in to complete the job. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Now that all 8 screws are in position, let's do one final check. So the left hand lever to check full rotation without any restriction, and then the right hand lever to check full tilt without any restriction. So you can lock that up wherever you want. When you receive your Pattern Maker's Vise, you'll get the instructions. So in conjunction with the instructions plus this video, hopefully you should be able to easily install your Pattern Maker's Vise. Certainly on benches like this, it's quite straightforward. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. If you need more specific details about the vise, you can go to the description, which will have a link to our website, and you can download the instructions, which has heaps of information.